Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and I'm actually really happy to interview the next person. um, his name, it's What's on the Comic Rack. He is so great about taking part in my Friday challenges that I'm super happy to, be able to interview him because he has a really awesome collection. So that's my intro. I hope he's a really great channel. You got to check him out. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I love your Friday challenges. That makes me to where I don't have to think of something to do. I don't have to come up with a new idea. You come up with all the ideas, and I just
it's hard coming up with ideas, actually.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is.
Like I had to come up with. I've done I think over 100 or so of those videos.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm always. How many different ways can you say good girl art? I know.
Well, how long have you been doing YouTube?
Who's being interviewed here? No, joking. I've been doing it for a couple of years.
Couple years.
That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2022 or 2021. I'm not sure. It all blends together after a while. But yeah, how about you? How long have you been doing YouTube?
Since April.
Since April. So you're relatively new. I mean,
that's relatively new.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just an extension of the hobby.
Yeah, that's the way I saw it too. I'm unboxing stuff. I'm buying comics anyways. Why not, make it
into to everybody?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think as collectors, we like showing stuff. You know what I mean? Like show and tell is a big part of the hobby, I find.
It's funny. I had a friend that had his daughter used to watch YouTube videos of kids opening up new toys and playing with them.
I know.
And I was going, why would you want to do it? And then look, now I'm doing it. The hypocrisy of
I know. It's funny. So I remember, I forgot what it was, something and kids or something kids or something where it was like this family and they have been so successful with it. They would get every year they get more and more awesome toys. And it was just like crazy unboxings that they would do, this family.
The companies would send them toys to unbox.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel like these YouTube channels are commercials for me. I'm watching other people's stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going, ooh, I would like to have that. Ooh, I'd like to have that too. So it's all like one big long commercial for comics.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I always feel guilty in a way because I'm like, okay, I'm bad about spending. I buy too much stuff. I admit it. I have a problem, but I'm bringing that problem to other people. So I feel like I'm not sure if this is a good thing. So yeah, but how about you? Do you find because you watch these videos that you inspired to buy more comics or?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's usually what I look at to buy. I think I showed in one video, and funny, I don't have it. It was an Action Comics 1053. It was some type of variant that you could only get at a con, and I saw it. And I was like, "Oh, I've got to have that."
Is that the one with Power Girl?
Yes, I really.
Once you said it, I was like, I know which one you're talking about.
And once I saw it, then I'm on eBay looking. So yeah,
that's the Warren Lau one. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, and that's me. I'll see something somebody else has, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's really cool." I really.
Well, you put a sexy Power Girl cover on. I think we all buy it.
Exactly. It's not, it's not too hard to want one of those type of covers.
Yeah. But so, how did you get into collecting comics in the first place?
Well, growing up, I think the very first comic I ever saw, and in fact, I have it right here. This was
really?
Here.
Yeah. You want me to make it big? I'll make it big.
If you want to. This was the very first comic I remember seeing. This came out.
Black Bolt, and Thing, and
this is a reprint of Fantastic Four number 82. So it came out in 1976. So I'm like, 7 years old. And I remember seeing this in my brother's room.
Nice.
And that was, the start of me starting to collect things. And but as a 7-year-old, one thing I really loved with these corner boxes. And I remember you saying about Patsy Walker.
Patsy Walker.
106 is the
Yeah.
first time they have one of these corner boxes.
Yeah, corner boxes.
The reason as a 7-year-old I love these corner boxes was because I would do this.
Oh, really?
I
Oh,
would cut
man.
those corner boxes out, and instead of having like army men, I would make those into little action figures that I
Wow.
would use. And so that's my fascination with corner boxes, because all the corner boxes, the characters are about the same size.
Yeah, and they're standardized size because they have to fit that corner.
And it's a full figure, it has the whole thing. It's not just a headshot, it has the whole character. So yes,
Oh, wow.
that's what I was doing to my comics. Now I've since, bought the real one.
Yeah, the fixed version. It's so
But
bad.
I do have some of these where, I have a hard time throwing any comic book away for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have some of these where I'll run into them where I'll cut out the corner boxes.
Someday later there'll be a pedigree, the corner box pedigree. It's all like 0.5 grades, but
all the corner boxes are cut out.
All the corner boxes are gone.
So yeah, this is the first one I remember seeing. And so the very first exposure I had was Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. And I'm still a Jack Kirby fan. I love his art.
That's cool.
The way he makes characters come out of the page.
Well, that's why it's a very interesting book, because there is that kind of like, they're like kind of doing that, even Mr. Fantastic's arm is kind of stretching out of the comic in a way. Yeah.
Yes, he's really known for doing that. So that was my first exposure to comic books. That was my first one. And of course, I'm into fantasy, I'm into horror, I'm into science fiction. Of course, I'm watching TV shows like The $6 Million Man, reruns of Star Trek, Twilight Zone. My mom was big into horror movies, so we would watch horror movies.
Oh, cool.
Saturday morning cartoons. Of course, you've got Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. You've got Thundar the Barbarian. Those kind of cartoons. So I was always into those kind of things.
Yeah.
Playing D&D, those
I played D&D too. I love being DM. So
I think I started playing D&D with the Mulvey edition, the very first. It's not even first edition. It's before first edition.
Really? I didn't realize there was anything before the first edition.
Yeah, it's called Mulvey, and that's how I started even watching YouTube, is because I still play to this day, and I started watching YouTube to watch for gaming things,
Oh, really?
Gaming advice.
Wow.
Stuff. So I've kind of switched.
Yeah, I liked the original Dungeons Dragons. I liked it when it was the first edition.
Mm-hmm.
Though I played all the way up until the second edition. The second advanced Dungeons and Dragons edition, where
yes, I know what you're talking about. It was Dungeons and Dragons, and it was Advanced
Dungeons and Dragons. Like they made first edition, second edition. I had both of those. And then they made Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which was a totally new thing. And that was like the hardcover books.
Yes.
And then they went with I think second generation was like where it was like binders, and you could like.
Yes, you could buy individual things where you put in 3-ring bind. Yes.
So that's as far as I played. That was up till high school, right? And then after that, I didn't really have the time to do it.
Seems like I had the time in college still a little bit to play, and then that seemed to be the height of me playing. And then after that, like you said, now that I've gotten older, some of the friends I still had back then, we get together and we still play a little bit of D&D.
Yeah, I actually played a little bit when I first got married, and I found like with every D&D game, it's like 90% absolutely nothing achieved, and then 10% actually playing the game. It's like roll a few dice, and it's like.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But it was always fun. Yeah.
So I guess I was exposed to a lot of that. And then we live close to the beach. And my dad had his own business. He had multiple stores. He had a store in our hometown. He also had a store in another town close to us. And during summer break, we would come down to the beach. My parents had a trailer and a trailer park down by the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way down there, my mom would stop at this used bookstore.
Oh, okay.
And there were stacks of
old comics that you
old
could...
comics. And I've got one of them I still had from back
Oh,
then.
wow. That's the first Unimind.
Yes. But the thing he would do, and this is the actual one, the reason I know it's the actual one, he would take staples and he would staple the book together.
I think I remember you mentioning that in one of your videos, actually.
Yes.
That is so messed up that he wouldn't let people read it and he would staple them shut.
He would staple them shut. Like you could bring in, I think you could bring in 2 or 3 comics and you would get one comic. And, again, it was a used bookstore. My mom was picking up books, but I would always pick up comics. And so that was the other place I could get comics. I saw them in my brother's room. I'm not sure where he got them from. But this is where I remember, picking up comics. And this is I think this came out in 1977. So.
Wow. So did you get it when it came out or when like a few years after?
I think he actually got these, and this was probably about 77, 78. I know it had to be before 79 because where I live and anywhere along the Gulf Coast, if you live along the Gulf Coast, you measure time by the last major hurricane. And I know in 79 Frederick hit and we didn't have our place down there. Mm-hmm. So it had to be between 79, 77, sometime in there, because this came out in 77.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
So I would always get comics there, and then we'd be at the beach, and I seemed to have more access to comics there than I did in my hometown. It was only probably about the early 80s that I realized that they were at gas stations. I'm like, oh, there's comics at gas stations. And
so were you collecting or were you just like reading and just like?
My thing was reading, because I can remember I would keep obviously the issues, but I had some shelving in my closet and I would just stack them. I read them and I just stack them in there. No bags, no boards or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really learn about bags and boards until like 90s. I was like, way out of I didn't really get it either. I was like, I saw comics as like disposable, like you just throw them in the rack or whatever it was.
A cheap form of entertainment, because you could take $10 if I'd done something around the house, mowed the lawn or something, and gotten $10. Then I could go and get, like you said, a stack of comic books. That's a lot of comic books for $10.
Yeah, that's a lot of comic books.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially when they were like 25 cents each. That's like.
Exactly. So I can remember the first time I started seeing them in my hometown, and I would ride my bike there was a Tom Thumb. It was probably about 5 miles away. Mm-hmm. And I remember riding to it and getting it, and I would mow the lawn or do something around the house to make some money. And that's the first thing I would do is I would buy a comic.
Oh, nice.
So this is the actual first comic book I remember buying with my own money.
Wow.
This one. So you
picked the ugliest cover one.
Yes. And I wanted to, do you find it an ugly cover?
I never liked that cover. I just found it too busy. And I like each individual panel. So I don't know. It's not a great cover in my opinion. Sorry.
And it kind of mimics a Silver Age style of like Amazing Spider-Man #4, I think it is, where it shows the panels of kind of
with the Sandman.
Yes.
But at least with that, like the Sandman's one, it's like panel that leads to next panel that leads to next panel. It's like kind of like something. This is just like all over the place.
It's too much. Well, for me, my 12-year-old mind, I'm reading it. I'm sure they did this to sell the comic, saying, "Hey, this is what's inside the comic book. Buy this comic book." And for me, it's what sold it. It made me pick it up because of what it was saying on the outside. And
then it's a big key.
Say that again.
It is a big key. First Rogue.
Yeah, and I guess that's her supposed to be right here, supposed to be
So
right
I,
there,
so
and
that was one of those questions that I always have. Like, is that her there with the question mark, or is it the panel above that where she's one of the heads, like maybe one of the heads inside there?
yeah, but I don't. Is that her back behind
Yeah, that's what I'm
Pyro?
saying.
I don't know. That's a good question, and I
Yeah,
guess that's another reason people don't like it as a first appearance. They want the person
they
that's
want
the
more
first appearance
clarity,
on the
right?
cover. Yeah, front and center. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Golden did do another cover for this,
Mm-hmm.
but for some reason it was rejected. I'm not sure why. And this is the one they went with. And
Like personally, I always like the first appearance covers, like Poison Ivy's first appearance or Batgirl's, like where it's like, you know, presenting this character in their full, full form, right?
yes. So, I mean, I picked this up. I know that I looked at this and I picked it up because there was probably a cool, and there's cool fights in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of action. And that was the reason I was picking things up at 12 years old. I'm not cutting them up anymore. Now I'm kind of
At least
reading
that's
them.
good.
I'm kind of reading them and looking for cool fights. Okay, who's fighting this? And I think I had an appreciation for the art inside. Michael Golden does the art inside, and I think he's amazing at this
Mm-hmm.
stage of his career. I really love this art on the inside. It's great. It's got some really cool panels in here that I'm like, that's really cool. I don't think his art style now is as good as it is in this issue. But I really love this. This is the book when somebody says your house is burning down, you can only grab one comic. I'm actually grabbing this one. It's not worth
Wow.
anything, but it has sentimental value more than
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. And so when you bought that, you actually did try to keep care of it, like where you.
No, still no bags, still no boards. That's the reason this one's in such bad shape.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of spine breaks, but it's probably been read 1,000 times. I
Wow.
can, yeah, I can think in my head every panel. I could almost quote the dang thing because I know it so much.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, this started me really getting into the beginning of the '80s. Is when I really started getting into buying almost everything I could find that
Wow.
was in the racks.
And
And
did you like particular like
uh,
teams like Avengers or Fantastic Four or what?
yes, so I've got those. I picked some that were through the '80s of an
Mm-hmm.
artist, writer, or just artist that I really really loved, and of course I loved John Byrne.
Galactus.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty cool iconic cover here.
Oops, wait,
So
I'm clicking the wrong button. Wait. Oh, wait, I muted you. One second. Wow, I'm like tapping 20 different things here. Okay, so wow. I mean, I always like that cover. Actually, I have that one as well. Yeah, I always like Galactus. I like him being big and just squishing, like feeling like he could almost like we're like ants to him, and we could just
yes,
squish him.
and that's the way, to me, is a character that shouldn't be used that often because of how powerful he is.
Mm-hmm.
But I really gravitated toward John Byrne doing the Fantastic Four. I really loved his run on that. I'd already, gotten the love of the Fantastic Four from Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And I think when John Byrne took it over, I remember him saying that he almost like he forgot about all the stuff in between. He said, I'm starting right at 102. This is like right after 102.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of moved on from there. So this is one I had to pick up in the '80s. If John Byrne was doing Fantastic Four, I did not miss picking an issue up of that.
Wow, that's great.
And then another run that I loved was Bob Layton, David Michelini. Is it pronounced Michelini?
Michelini, I thought. I'm not sure. I always mispronounce names, anyways. People
I
always
always
complain about me.
mispronounce
So.
names as well. And John Romita Jr., I love their run on Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
I was constantly picking Iron Man up. That became one of my favorite characters as well.
It's interesting to see him going up against Doctor Doom.
I love this. I felt like it was a perfect match. Two
Mm-hmm.
armored, characters going against each other, two superior intellects in a sense. Who's going to outsmart, who's going to make the device that beats the other.
Yeah.
But in the end, in this one, they had to team up to get out of the quandary that they had gotten in.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I think that's what I loved. And I loved his art. So I love John Byrne, but I love the art in this one as well. I love the shininess that they bring to those, to their armor, almost like it looks like it's made out of metal.
Oh, I like the pose, actually. It's very like mid swing.
Exactly. There's a lot of action in this cover, and it's a black cover. There's something about black covers too. There's a couple of Silver Age. I think there's the Hulk and the Submariner on a cover that's black.
No, I know which one. That's a great one.
That's a great one. So there's a lot of cool covers that have black covers on them, and I think this is just one of them that can fit in it. So I was picking this up. I felt that this was the height of Thor. I didn't miss the Thor.
I like Beta Ray Bill a lot. I think he's a great character.
And Walt Simonson, I think he did such an excellent job during this time on this character. So much so when I was my can't even think of it, the final paper you do in English class in your senior year.
Oh, really? You're like a thesis or something like that?
I did it on Norse mythology because I just loved.
Oh, wow.
He got me into this. I remember reading Edith Hamilton's Mythology, has a good treatise on Norse mythology. So yes, I always picked up Thor while Walt Simonson was on the title.
The weird thing about Thor is I didn't really know the character that well until the movies came out.
Really?
Yeah, I never really got into Thor. I was more of a DC guy anyways, so but
and it's funny, one reason I was collecting so much Marvel and not so much DC in the 80s is I had a friend and he was picking up all the DC stuff. I was picking up all the Marvel stuff, and we would just trade off comics and read each other's comics.
That's cool.
So I was reading a lot of DC. I just don't have a lot of it from that time frame. Another comic I would always pick up would be the Avengers.
We were just talking about that book. I was talking about that book on a live stream with some people. There's the rape scene in that book.
Yes, that's big, huge controversy with
that book.
This one. So I would always pick up the Avengers, no matter who was in it. And it came to a point where I didn't want to miss some of the issues of whatever it is I was picking up, and they didn't always have stuff on the rack. So when Christmas time would roll around, I would use one of these.
Oh, okay.
To make sure I get the issues. So, you would get it. I would get stuff through the mail. Now, I still have some of these things where, you would order stuff through the mail. But
and so would that be like, those would be like the direct copies, or they'd be newsstands, or what would they be?
They would be newsstand copies, some of them.
Oh, okay.
And then some of them would be direct copies. So I'm not sure how they were distributing those, but I know that like this Thor, I know I got from getting it through the mail. So, and it's got.
And would it always have like that subscription crease where they fold it and stuff it in your box?
No, because it's funny. Like I said, my dad had his own business, and so we had a post office box.
Oh, okay.
And so if something came that big that wouldn't fit in the thing, they would hold it in the back or put it in a larger thing. So none of mine's ever got destroyed that way.
Yeah, I used to get Mad magazine, and all my Mad magazines have that, where they'd fold it, stuff it in the box.
Yes, and I really enjoyed Mark Gruenwald's run on Captain America. I think he stayed on this title 20 years.
Oh wow.
I think it was just an amazing amount of time that he stayed on this. I know it was at least for 10 years. I know he stayed on Captain America, and I really enjoyed his Captain America. So that was another one I made sure I got in the mail so I didn't miss anything. So, and I think this one is 305. I think Mark Gruenwald started in 304 is when he started his one. on it. And I didn't have a 304. I was looking for it. I said, "Ooh, I know he started in 304," and I started looking and I couldn't find
So
it.
he ran from 304 to like maybe 400s kind of
Yeah,
level.
I think so.
Wow.
And like I said, I really enjoyed the George Perez Marv Wolfman run
Oh
on the
yeah.
Titans.
See, that's a bit of DC there.
Yep. And I would pick up some DC here and there because he may not have it, or we were trading off. I said, well, I'll just pick this one up before, and so I don't have to trade it off with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of thing. But I really enjoyed the Titans run with George Perez and Marv Wolfman. I thought that was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I really started picking up DC stuff once this came around.
Yeah, Infinite Crisis. Yeah. Or Crisis on Infinite Earths, I should say. Yeah.
Yes. I felt like that was a good jumping on point because, like I said, I was primarily reading. I felt like that was a good jumping on point where I could jump on, since some of the characters were kind of rebooted at the time. I think they do too many reboots now. But
so after they did that series, did they do the new DC after that? When did they do the relaunch?
The new 52?
The new 52. That was
Yeah,
much later though.
Oh, this was much later because this was
But
1987.
they did some other reboot where it was like I remember they came out with all the zeros, right?
Yes.
Um,
Everything got rebooted on this except the Batman title and Detective Comics, meaning everything started off with a new numbering system, except those. Those were the only ones that didn't. This is when John Byrne got a hold of Superman and did the Man of Steel. Mm-hmm. And kind of rebooted and grounded the character. I thought he did a really good job of writing that, even though he didn't stay very long on that title. So that's the kind of stuff I was reading in the 80s. I even picked up Spider-Man. I thought that Spider-Man titles, I even picked those up. So I've got complete runs of the 80s. If there was a Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, Avengers, if it's from 80 to 90, I know I've got it because I was picking up just about everything. Now, is it in great shape? Probably not, because I probably read it over and over and over again. You can tell which ones I enjoyed more than others
by the quality of the comic.
By the quality of the comic. And I think that's the reason when I look online or I see something at an LCS that's in the back issues and it's not, a perfect issue, I'm like, this comic's been loved. Somebody has read this thing over and over and over and over again.
So how do you feel about grading comics, like getting slabbed?
I don't see, I understand that, especially for older comics, it's a way of preserving the comic. But I mean, I have slabs myself. And when I first got it, when I first heard people slabbing, I was thinking, oh, that is a great way of framing your comic to display it.
Yeah, that's the way I saw it too.
Because these are works of art to me. And I think that's really now, if anything, I'm collecting. I don't read as much. I'm really collecting pieces of art, I feel like, that I want to hang on the wall.
That's the way I've been. Like, what I'll do is I kind of do the Netflix style of reading, I guess, where you binge read. Like, so what I'll do is I did this with Fantastic Four. I read like from 1 to 20, I just will read it all at once. And then I'll do the same with, right now I'm doing Amazing Spider-Man. I'm reading 1 through 40 of Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah.
And see, that's one of my goals, is to start doing some more reading, getting the omnibuses and reading. And it's funny that you say that, because I went to my library today to try to get an omnibus through interlibrary loans, so I don't have to, because I don't want to use that money. I'm sitting there thinking, oh, an omnibus for $189, or
they're really expensive.
One comic book for $189. Those omnibuses are pretty expensive.
Yeah, I was shocked how expensive they are. They're brutal.
They are brutal.
Yeah, it's like really expensive, and like you need usually like 2 or 3 omnibuses to get whatever.
And I was thinking about starting with the Fantastic Four. I was like, you know what? I want to read one through up until what I have, and then
Hmm.
I can just go back and reread my older copies of what I've got.
Yeah. Do you ever read online?
I tried. I'd gotten Marvel.com, I think, whatever it was,
Oh,
and
I use the free sites. So.
okay, so I don't know. I just don't. I have a hard time reading with a computer. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I like having something physical in my hand when I'm
Hmm.
and having the light on and reading in bed. And I don't know, the computer just doesn't do it for me. I don't.
Yeah, it's less of an experience. It is what it is. You're not touching. There's no tangible thing there, right?
I think, and what somebody said one time, one of the most powerful memory
Is having that textile, that
is
texture,
textile
text.
and also smell because
Oh,
books
that's true.
have a smell to them. Especially you pick up an old comic, it has a distinct smell to it, and so
Hmm.
those are memory triggers.
Yeah, that's true. That's they always say that that's actually one of the best triggers for memory is smell. Like like
Mhm.
you remember the weird smells like from like whatever crazy time. Yeah,
And it immediately triggers a memory for you.
yeah, yeah. So.
So I was collecting everything or reading everything up until probably 1998. And the
Oh, okay.
reason it was 1998 is that's when I started my job. And once I started a job, I just didn't have the same amount of time
Yeah,
that I did
yeah. I
before.
mean, that's the same as me. I really collected hard during my university time.
Hmm.
And then when actually the funny thing was I collected a lot when I got my first big job because like I just had a lot of money and I had nowhere to spend it because I was living in Korea. It was like I just had no
Okay.
like so I everything was paid for and then I would have a check on top. So I just put like, okay, I'll just buy cool comics. So I kept on sending packages back to my parents' house, and they'd get really upset because they'd get all these custom fees, and I
Yes.
didn't pay the customs. They would pay the customs, and they'd get really upset with me.
I was talking, well, through, when you say talking, I was putting comments on Aussie Comic Collector,
Hmm.
his channel, and he was talking about he had gone to a claim sale and there was a lot of dollar comics and he'd gotten this big stack of comics, and as
Hmm.
they're going through, going, okay, what's your address, totaling things up at the end, they
Hmm.
go, oh, you're Australia, well, you can forget it, I'm not going to do it because of the customs.
Yeah,
And he kind of said, well, why is it that, and I gave him this big long list of the reasons why it's such a hassle to send
yeah.
things.
Nobody wants to send to even to Canada. They get upset.
Yes. See, me and my wife have hosted foreign exchange students, a few in the past, and sending stuff over there, we kind of learned that it's a lot of paperwork. Some people
Yep.
don't like the paperwork. Number two, you've got a large percentage of stuff that doesn't make it.
Yeah, it gets lost in the mail. Yeah, yeah.
It's expensive,
Hmm.
and they open stuff up and they destroy things. Like we've
Yeah,
sent things,
that's
and
my big fear. Is that if it gets hidden customs, I'm like, oh no, they're gonna mangle some stuff in this box. Yeah.
I remember distinctly sending somebody wanted a sweatshirt, and we sent him a sweatshirt, and they took a blade and they opened that box up to rummage through it, and they just cut that sweatshirt. He's like, this is what I got. I was like, well, we
Wow.
learned our lesson after that, not to send
Yeah.
things through.
Yeah, customs have no respect for packaging. Like,
No.
yeah, it's like, yeah. Actually, that's why I use Stackery. Like, because I am in Canada. Like, I send
Hmm.
everything that I buy in the U.S. to like a mail forwarding company, and
Hmm.
then they send it to me. So that's the way.
Okay.
That's why I always have these massive boxes. And you probably wonder, oh, why is he like? Is he buying that all at once? No, it's like a whole bunch of little orders that add up after time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I can remember a few comics in the 90s. I can
Okay.
remember
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
That's a great
remember,
one.
McFarlane Spider-Man run. I remember that one. That one was a distinct.
Do you have all the different variations of that one with the gold and the silver and what's the regular?
No, because at that point I was still just buying what was on the shelf.
Okay.
And this is when I first, in the 90s, like you, that's the first time I realized that there were comic shops that had nothing but comics in it.
Yeah.
And then I go there and they're bagging and boarding. They got, oh, well, that's a neat way of storing your comics.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I looked at it. I'm like, oh, that's a neat way of storing your comics. Well, I'm going to start doing that and put them in this box, and that'll be a better way of storing them than me stacking them on shelves like I had them before.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember this from the 90s. It's another, of course, all the independent stuff that came out.
Oh, Youngblood.
Yeah. I was talking with Big Me McFly, and the last live I was with him, and I had a stack of these because I just bought a big collection, and there was like almost a long box full of Youngblood. It was like,
oh wow! I mean, they were just massively printed, like just crazily printed.
And I just kind of flipped this up. I said, "Oh, I've got 15 of these. You want one of these?" And he said, "You know what? That used to be a key." And I was like, "What?" And so I look it up, and this was like the first appearance of Pitt, the character Pitt.
I thought he made a earlier appearance though.
It may be, but so I sell a lot of these that I got out of that collection online. And on the back, I'm starting to write, Big Me McFly, the comic guy on YouTube, said that this used to be a key. When I send them out.
That's cool.
So, I mean, I was still getting stuff in the 2000s, but it had to be, at that time, I think the only thing I was really collecting and still getting was Avengers, Iron Man, and Captain America. But stuff like this would come out, and I'm like, oh, I got to pick that up. So
that's cool. It's like Captain America, Thor, and Superman.
Exactly.
Such an interesting mix.
So when they did this crossover, I had to pick that up. So I remember this is probably about 2003. And then the last thing I remember reading was when Civil War came out.
Oh, okay.
And that was around 2006.
Oh, wow.
That I was really excited about reading. Was this?
Yeah, I think that series brought a lot of people back. I think it was a very popular series.
And then I think what really brought me really back at this point were the movies.
Yeah, I think that's what brought me back. I mean, 2015 to 2018, I was starting to buy, a few comics here and there, but then more and more. And then by 2018, I was back full.
I feel like now I'm back full like I was in the 80s. I mean, in the 80s, I was like, I got to buy this. I got to buy this. And that's kind of the way I feel now. I see all these people on YouTube and they're showing those comics off. And I'm like, ooh, I've got to get that. Oh, I like that. I'm going to get me one of those. So,
so do you find you're buying more of the modern, or are you going back to buy the ones that you missed out on way back when?
I watch YouTube, and one of them, I can't remember who it was, that said, I'm going to set a goal of achieving these in 2022 or 2021. These are my goals. And my goals for last year included, and I still haven't gotten everything I wanted from last year. X-Men 109, that was the first appearance of Vindicator or Weapon Alpha.
Yeah.
There was the first appearance of the Starjammers with Gladiator.
Yeah, those like around 105 to 109, that era of books.
Then, since I'm such a big Iron Man fan, and the way I found out, I'm a school teacher. I used to put posters all on my walls because we would have we'd have to have testing every once in a while. We'd have to take any kind of reference things off the wall. And I was like, I'm tired of taking stuff on, putting stuff on the wall, taking stuff off the wall. I said, if I put comic book stuff all on the wall, I don't have to take it down when testing time comes. And the kids would always ask, "Oh, who's your favorite comic book character?" And I would always say, "Well, it's a tie between Captain America and Iron Man." And when I got one of these apps that catalogs all your comics, I'm like, well, I guess I'm about to decide, because it tells you
based on how many of each you have.
Yes, and when it all came out, it was Iron Man. Iron Man was on top, and it was like 10 issues more.
That's funny.
Of his appearance. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to want to collect Iron Man 1 through 100, because that's really what I'm missing, and I feel like
the early like Silver Age stuff. But
yes, so I can't help but pick up. Yesterday I picked up a Tales of Suspense number 99.
Okay.
Because he had one. He just got in a collection, and my local LCS is very good about, he sets stuff aside. If he gets a new collection in, he'll put it aside. And there's good about being around here and having him here, and there's bad. The good is he finds it, he's going to set it aside for me, and then I can get, like, if I see any Iron Man, I'm going to set him aside, give you first pick at him. But the bad side is he's hit every yard sale. He's hit every estate sale. He's got guys that look for these auctions on storage units. I mean, he is really good about just canvassing the entire area and picking up everything. So you're not going to find anything in the wild. I'm not going to go out and go, oh, I happen to run into, a Hulk 181 here at this yard sale. You're never going to do that, because he's going to be on top of it before you can.
So there's this one guy that just dominates the market where you live?
I feel he does dominate the market. I feel like he's got a foothold. There's really, where I live, there's one, and then you have to drive an hour before you get to another comic shop.
Oh, okay. So that's why.
He's got this whole area kind of locked down. And like I said, it's good because I can just go to him and say, hey, you getting new collections in? Yeah, I set some stuff aside for him. And that's what he had set aside for me, was that, there was a Tales. He's like, there was an odd Tales of Suspense number 99. You interested in this? I'm like, yes, I'll take it.
Nice.
But I've gotten all his Iron Man. I have as much as he does. And most of what I'm missing is between 3 and 60. That's what I'm missing.
Do you have one?
Yes, I've got a 1. I bought a 1 online. Let me see if I can find it. I've got this one.
Oh, nice. Nice presenting copy.
It is. And this is one of those that I felt when I wanted to get this was after the comic boom. Stuff is going down. I'm like, okay, I can wait. And I said, I'll put $100 aside every month, and then I'll get this. Well, it kept ticking up. This is one of those that kept ticking up.
It went crazy. It went crazy, that book.
And I think the reason why is people are completely priced out of Tales of Suspense number 39. Yeah. Just way out. But this one's still affordable. And
it's a great cover.
I like the cover as well, and you can easily go on eBay and find one. You can't go easily on eBay and find the Tales of Suspense number 39. But one of these, pretty rare. You can. So this is one I wanted. This was on my list for 2023 or 2022. I'm still working on my 2022 list. I saw a video. It's funny that I think it was yesterday you were doing a live, and I can't think of the other guy's name, and you were talking about an Avengers number 57 sold for $173.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was
like, wow, that's a steal.
And that one's on my list, and I just bought one. I think it's a 5.0 for $300. I was like, it's not 173, but I've really wanted one, and I'm like, hey, I'll get it. And so it's coming in the mail. The only one left on my list that I'm looking for is a Fantastic Four number 52. And
it's a cool book.
And that's one.
That was my very first slab. I always tell people that.
Really?
Yeah, that was my very first slab. I didn't know about slabs at the time. I was like, why is it in the case?
Exactly.
I'm such an idiot.
Well, I was telling somebody else that, in fact, it was my local LCS. I was looking through, I'd gone to my first con. I've only gone to one con in my entire life, and this was in the 80s, I think. like maybe 88, 89, sometime in there. And I'm looking through, I had $40. And I said, okay, I'm going to buy as many comic books as I can with $40. That was my mindset. So I'm looking through, I'm like, and I like horror. I'm like, ooh, Werewolf by Night. This is 30 cents. 30 cents, 30 cents, 30 cents, 30 cents. And then I reached the one of them that was $10. I'm like, I can't afford $10. Of course, that was the first appearance of
Moon Knight.
It was 32. And I remember picking up an entire, because I love Jack Kirby, I remember picking up an entire run of Eternals for 30 cents a piece. I'm like, oh, these are 30 cents a piece. These are, I love these. I remember having that one, the other one when I was a kid. And I'm like, oh, it's just 30 cents. So I had a stack for $40, but I don't know if there was anything worth anything.
Yeah, well, that's still cool. So by the way, what Grail would you be chasing after? Like what big book would you be chasing after?
So for me right now, it is Fantastic Four 52. Now that I bought the Avengers 57, I've checked that one off the list. My next one is FF 52. And then after that, for me, those would be Grails. For some people, that's not necessarily a Grail. And then after that, my next one is going to be Iron Man 55. That's the next one in that run.
The first Thanos.
Yes, and I think Star Fox and
Drax and Blood Brothers and a bunch of people.
Yeah, a bunch of people. Yeah, there's a bunch of people. So those two are the ones. But like you said a while ago, what do I collect? I haven't collected anything that's Golden Age. Now, I found 3 Golden Age comics in that, but they weren't worth anything. I could see myself getting into pre-code horror because I'm a horror fan. And I love covers.
There's some really great covers. They seem to go crazy though. I just bid on something and I was like, man, I actually put a bid that was like 40% over fair market value. And I still lost. I was like, what's going on, people?
So I think right now with those two Grails I'm looking for, trying to complete my Iron Man run. And then I like Silver Age stuff. I like, looking, and I think I'm going to be going for more kind of minor keys in Silver Age.
Or fill those run filler, kind of get that run going on with.
Yeah, but I think significance, like I said, I really enjoyed the Marv Wolfman, George Perez run. What is it? DC Presents for the first Teen Titans, new Teen Titans with Cyborg. I kind of want that one. I kind of been looking at that one, but again, I have to stay focused. I'm like, okay, let me focus on these. Don't get too distracted by the shiny stuff.
That's the big problem with every collector. You buy all these dollar bin books or, like these books that are, maybe $10 or $20 each. Right. And then you miss out on the big book that you could have gotten if you just didn't buy all those other.
And that's what I did with the Iron Man. When I first started to get that Iron Man #1, I went through and I was still getting things pulled. And I told my guy at the LCS, I said, stop everything. I was getting the Hulk and Avengers and Captain America. Said, I want you to stop everything except Iron Man. And I started saving all that money to get that Iron Man #1.
Wow.
So, and I'm still doing
that's smart. That's what you got to do. Make that sacrifice, right?
And that's what I did with the Avengers 57. I'd been setting aside $100 a month, and then I'll get.
But you didn't have to set that many hundreds aside, I guess, because it's sold for.
Sold for 300. Sold for around 300. So, and this one was also on my list. I got this one pretty.
Oh, I love that one.
And he had it at my LCS.
Yeah, it's a great one. I always love that cover. So I was a big collector. The big seal thing, the little, big special edition or special, that seal.
The premiere.
I collected all of those, the big premiere issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess eventually Silver Surfer #1 is going to have to be on there. Since I've got an Iron Man #1, Submariner #1 to complete the trifecta or complete the collection, I need a Silver Surfer #1. Then what is it? A Hulk 102.
Yep.
And then a Captain America 100, I guess.
I think there's 7 books in total that have it.
Okay.
I think so. I might be wrong, but I think so. I think it's 7. It's Iron Man, Submariner, and Iron Man Submariner, and
Yes.
then Silver Surfer, Captain Marvel, Hulk, and one more. I forgot what the one more is.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah, but I managed to finish that little collection because I don't know, it's something cheesy about that big premiere thing. I kind of like
You're
it.
right. I like it.
Yeah. So, but I
So
always
yeah,
had them displayed together. Like I always thought, oh, it looks cool to have them all together.
and that's the only other thing I collect are these Randy Bowen mini busts. That's the only
Mm-hmm.
thing. And when we remodeled this house, I would love to do this in my other room where I have all my comics. My wife affectionately calls it the dungeon,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't get any Wi-Fi down there. So this is the
Oh,
reason I'm not down there. But when we remodeled, there's these built-in shelving. At first, I wanted to just, okay, we're just going to take out everything. She says, no, let's leave that shelving. I'm glad I did. Comic books fit perfectly
oh,
standing up.
nice.
And then you put the mini bust in front. So if there's really something else I want to do is I like to collect a mini bust and then have the first appearance of that character
Oh, behind it, so it looks like a
behind
full display thing.
the full display thing. So I just got a Vindicator in the mail. I haven't even opened it up.
Oh, nice.
And so that's going to be one of my next videos of me talking about the 3 covers that show his first appearance, because there's a John Byrne cover, there's a Dave Cochran cover, and then there's a classic X-Men cover with Art Adams and about his name change. I want to do a little video about that and have that presented. So that's one thing in the future. I'm going to try to continue to do your Friday challenges.
Yeah, I'm glad. Okay. That's good.
And then a little series I seem to get a lot of good response from is that show a Golden Age comic, a Silver Age comic.
Yeah, even Bigby was going on about that. How he really enjoyed that series of yours.
Right. So I'm trying to do that once a week. So usually I'm going to probably put out at least 2 videos a week.
That's a good. As long as you're consistent, I think that's the big key to it.
Right. And I actually been working on a lot of shorts. It's funny. Watched YouTube, looked how you're supposed to do shorts, and I kind of followed the formula, and apparently it worked. The last short I did had like 1,900 views on it.
Wow.
I was amazed.
My shorts always fail. Like I am terrible at shorts. I don't know what it is.
And I've gotten a lot of subscribers from shorts. So,
I
it's
gotta
kind
start
of
doing shorts, I guess. But I
it's
gotta get better at it.
an entry level drug into the rest of the stuff. So
nice. So quickly, I can see
yes,
we're kind of running short on time.
we are.
Where can people find you? Like Instagram, YouTube? I'm going to put the links in the description, just so you know.
I do have an Instagram page.
Okay.
You can find me at What's on the Comic Rack on YouTube.
Okay.
Those are the 2 primary places I am at. Just Instagram. And I just like you said, I feel like it's just an extension of the hobby. I'm just enjoying. I'm going to continue to do this as long as I enjoy it and I'm having fun making the videos.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's a great way for comic community building, I guess, where we all kind of hang out.
Exactly. And making a lot of connections, and you make connections with people that may have some comics you want, and you got somebody to talk about comics that you may not have in your life to talk about comics. So yes,
that's why I started the channel personally. So same philosophy.
So yes, Instagram and What's on the Comic Rack on YouTube.
Okay, cool. So again, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Okay.
And thanks for coming on the channel.
You're more than welcome.
Sorry that we had to run short, like a little bit shorter than usual, but
well, that just gives us an excuse to do it again sometime.
Yeah, and I know that you have lots of great comics. I think your collection is a really great Bronze and Copper Age collection, which is an era that I didn't personally collect. That's so when you a lot of it, I'm like, oh wow, I haven't seen that. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So it's
well, good, because I'm watching your channel and I'm learning a lot about Golden Age comics.
The funny thing is, I've only recently gone into Golden Age, only in the last 3-4 years. I just I just find it much more exciting. Something about it. It's like hunting treasure or something. I just love it.
But I enjoyed it.
Okay, cool.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, sounds great.
We're on the Comic Rack.
Check out what's on the Comic Rack. Everyone, go over there, subscribe to his channel, and thanks again. Bye for now.
Bye.